Breaking news! The first preseason game for the Miami Dolphins is in the books, and let me tell you, what happened on that field might be a sneak peek at both our biggest strengths and our most dangerous weaknesses heading into the season. On the surface, a 24-24 tie with the Bears might seem harmless. It's just preseason, right? But dig a little deeper, and you'll see moments that could define the Dolphins' entire year. We saw flashes of brilliance from key players, head-scratching mistakes from the backups, and coaching decisions that are already raising eyebrows. The kind of patterns that, if not fixed, could crush Super Bowl hopes before they even start. And yes, Chris Greer is still here when he shouldn't be, and that's part of the problem. I'm going to break down exactly what I saw, what has me excited, and what's keeping me up at night about this team. But first, if you're a real Dolphins fan, smash that like button and comment, "Go Dolphins! We can make the Super Bowl!" Now, let's dive in. The Dolphins walked out of that preseason opener with a 24-24 tie against the Bears. No overtime in the preseason, thankfully, but there was plenty to digest. Tua came out sharp, completing 5 of 6 passes for 27 yards. Nothing flashy, but he did exactly what was asked. The real talking point wasn't the starters, it was the story of 2 backup quarterbacks, and trust me, it wasn't all pretty. Zach Wilson flashed some good moments, 96 yards on 5 of 9 passing, but he also showed some troubling habits. He holds onto the ball far too long, taking sacks that just can't happen in meaningful games. It's Tannehill's early days all over again, waiting for something to magically open up instead of trusting his internal clock. He's got the mobility to escape, but his pocket awareness is lacking, and against regular season starters, that's going to be a problem. Then came Quinn Ewers, who had a rough debut, 5 of 18 passing for 91 yards, plus 2 fumbles lost. Yes, he was playing with 3rd and 4th stringers, but he was also facing the same level of competition, and you expect better execution in those situations. One of his late-game fumbles came on a critical drive when the Dolphins were in range to set up Jason Sanders for a game winner. Instead of playing it smart and inching closer, we got an ill-advised deep shot into tight coverage, then incompletions, and finally a sack fumble. The kind of sequence that makes you shake your head and wonder about situational awareness. The running game gave us some positives. Ollie Gordon, Jalen Wright, and Alexander Mattison all punched in rushing touchdowns. Gordon in particular looked explosive, averaging over 4 yards a carry and adding a beautiful 39-yard catch and run on a screen pass. That's the kind of versatility that can make him a dangerous weapon if used correctly. On defense, there were flashes too, 3 sacks total, an interception from Patrick McMorris, and a few key red zone stands that showed mental toughness. Willie Gay Jr. was around the ball constantly, and younger players like Grayson Murphy and Derek McClendon made their presence felt. But penalties, wow! 10 penalties for 68 yards is a glaring issue. This is where McDaniel has to step up, and it's not just the yellow flags, it's the wasted timeouts. Burning one just 2 plays into the second half? That's the kind of clock mismanagement that can cost you a win in December. Combine that with questionable play calling late in the game, and you start to wonder whether the head coach is tightening things up or just experimenting too much. The first half felt controlled, efficient drives, defense forcing 3-and-outs, and good situational football. I'd grade it a solid B. But the second half slipped into sloppy territory, more like a C+, with turnovers, stalled drives, and poor decisions. Yes, it's only preseason, and yes, we didn't have guys like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Bradley Chubb, or Jaylon Phillips on the field. But bad habits can carry over, and you can't just hand-wave those away because it's August. Because here's where it gets really interesting. When you strip away the "it's only preseason" excuse, the Dolphins' flaws are not just about rust, they're about discipline and decision-making. The most glaring example came in those closing moments. After forcing a turnover on downs, Miami had the ball with a chance to win. Ewers connects with Ollie Gordon for 19 yards, putting us near midfield. At that point, any smart offense knows you only need another 10 to 15 yards to give Jason Sanders a clean look at the game winner. Instead, the next sequence was a masterclass in how to snatch a tie from the jaws of victory. A 5-yard penalty, 2 incompletions, one behind the receiver, the other a deep shot into tight coverage, then a sack fumble. That's not learning in real time, that's ignoring the situation entirely. And don't get me started on the timeout issue. The moment McDaniel burned that one coming out of halftime, I had a bad feeling. When you're trying to manage the clock in a tight game, preseason or not, having that extra timeout changes everything. In this case, it could have been the difference between attempting a long game-winning kick and walking off the field with the scoreboard still even. This isn't a rookie coach anymore. McDaniel has to fix that habit now, before it sabotages the regular season. Then there's Zach Wilson. He's got the arm talent and mobility, but his lack of pocket presence stood out all night. Too many times he waited for a perfect window instead of hitting the check down or moving the chains with his legs. Yes, he made some nice throws, especially to Taj Washington, but that internal clock just isn't there yet. And let's be clear, Miami doesn't want Wilson playing meaningful snaps in the regular season unless absolutely necessary. But if that moment comes and this habit persists, expect a lot of drive-killing sacks. On the bright side, the defense showed grit without some of its biggest names. Early on, they forced multiple 3-and-outs, pressured the QB even with a vanilla scheme, and kept everything in front of them. Patrick McMorris' interception was a perfect example of opportunistic football, tipped at the line, right place, right time. Willie Gay Jr. looked every bit the veteran leader this unit needs, and younger defenders like Grayson Murphy brought energy that will make the coaches take notice in film review. But again, penalties hurt. You can't extend drives for your opponent with unnecessary flags and expect to win consistently. Ollie Gordon might have been the offensive bright spot of the night. His burst through the line, vision on outside runs, and ability to make plays in the passing game all popped off the screen. If he keeps this up, McDaniel will have no choice but to give him a bigger role alongside Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. Jalen Wright also flashed potential, tough yards in short situations and a touchdown to show for it. And Madison's goal line score proved he can be the hammer in tight spaces. Still, the inconsistency in execution and decision-making is the story. In the first half, the Dolphins looked like a disciplined, well-prepared team. In the second, they looked like they were scrambling to remember the basics. That shift is concerning because winning teams don't just start strong, they finish stronger. And right now, Miami has to prove it can do that against better competition. With joint practices against the Lions coming up, this is the perfect test. Detroit's physical, they hit hard, and they'll expose any softness in the Dolphins' lines. McDaniel and his staff have a short window to clean up the penalties, fix the timeout blunders, and drill situational football into every player's head. If they don't, we could be looking at a regular season where talent gets overshadowed by mental mistakes. So I'll throw it back to you. Are the Dolphins going to take these preseason lessons and turn them into regular season strength, or are we looking at the same old patterns that have burned this team before? And if you think it's the latter, how much of that blame falls on McDaniel, and how much is on the players? Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button if you bleed aqua and orange, and stick around. The next video will be up on your screen in just a moment. And here's the thing, this isn't just about one sloppy preseason game. This is about the culture McDaniel is building and whether it's one that truly prepares a team for championship football. The great teams don't just have talent, they have accountability. When a quarterback repeatedly holds the ball too long, when a young backup can't protect the football in crunch time, when a coaching staff wastes timeouts like they grow on trees, those aren't isolated incidents. Those are symptoms of a team that still hasn't mastered the little details that separate playoff contenders from Super Bowl champions. And for a roster this loaded at the top, those little details matter more than ever. We've seen too many seasons derailed by avoidable mistakes, too many big games lost because the Dolphins couldn't execute in the clutch. That's why these next joint practices and preseason reps are so important. They're not just tune-ups, they're opportunities to prove that this team can evolve. Otherwise, 2025 might look a lot like 2024, talent wasted by preventable errors. So, fans, are you convinced this group can make that leap, or are we bracing for deja vu?